Hey everyone, welcome to This Song Sucks, where I analyze love songs you request and explain how they perpetuate toxic, or at least inaccurate themes/ideas about love and relationships. In the line of fire this week is Crush by David Archuleta. Let's get into it.
Tonight, something happened for the first time deep inside. There's a rush, what a rush.
So that is one key thing that I will point out about a lot of relationship songs, especially talking about meeting someone for the first time, is that they'll talk about a rush or sparks or whatever you want to call it. Essentially, it's just that first moment of attraction, if you will. And it's certainly not love, as some people would call it, especially when talking about it in the context of a song. It doesn't mean love. More often than not, it's more of a lust sort of situation, or, simply a crush sort of situation.
'Cause the possibility that you would ever feel the same way about me, just too much, just too much.
This song is absolutely a teenage love song. The whole concepts of first love, teenage romance, mutual crushes are just abounded in this song, and it encapsulates those feelings of first love and teenage romances and mutual crushes very well. Of course, you don't experience those across your entire lifetime. Crushing on someone and being in a mutual crush is not nearly as awkward as you get to be older as it is when you're a teenager or even young adult and just haven't had a lot of experience in that. Whereas once you've gotten some experience under your belt, they cease to be quite so awkward. And this song is definitely talking about some of that awkwardness.
Why do I keep running from the truth? All I ever think about is you. You got me hypnotized, so mesmerized.
Hypnotized, mesmerized, definitely the sort of language that you would expect to hear with someone who is crushing really hard on someone. It's also the same sort of language that you would expect to hear in the NRE phase or new relationship energy phase, which basically is the whole idea of, rose-colored glasses, how you don't really notice anyone's flaws when you first start dating them. I've talked about in other videos how NRE definitely does a number on your critical thinking skills.
And I just got to know, do you ever think when you're all alone, all we can be, when I think go, am I crazy or falling in love? Is it really just another crowd?
So that's the thing that I don't really get about this. He says, is it real or just a crush? Am I crazy or falling in love? Just because you're crushing on someone doesn't make it not real, doesn't mean that you are crazy. Lots of people have crushes on people. Lots of people experience this sort of, do I like them? Do I love them? It's, it can make you feel crazy sometimes, but that doesn't make crushes any less valuable.
Do you catch your breath when I look at you? Are you holding back like the way you do? 'Cause I'm trying to walk away, but I know this crush ain't going away. Going away.
Another thing about crushes, they can go one of a few ways. They can end with just being friends. They can end maybe in a partnership, so that crush can lead into being a relationship, or it can lead to nothing. It's really just dependent. So when he says something like, this crush isn't going away, well, crushes are pretty temporary feelings, especially when you're a teenager. And again, they'll either transform into something else, like a friendship or relationship, or they'll go nowhere and eventually fizzle out.
Has it ever crossed your mind when we're hanging, spending time, girl, are we just friends? Is there more? Is there more? See, it's a chance we gotta take.
It's a chance we have to take. Forget about weighing pros, cons, anything like that. Those lyrics are definitely part of what make this song, I think, more along the lines of a teenage romance sort of deal. You know, impulsivity is much higher at that age. Even when you get into your 20s, the impulsivity doesn't quite go away. But as you get older, you just have to think more about what getting into a relationship with someone else entails, because they're bringing in their responsibilities into the relationship and you're bringing in your responsibilities, and you both have to decide whether or not that's worth doing and whether or not you can both handle each other's responsibilities as well as your own. All right, so let's go over some of the themes just from the music video itself rather than the song. You definitely have this nice guy persona that David Archuleta is playing. First, he helps her out when this jock guy kind of pushes her off her inner tube, or along those lines, is, you know, messing with her and gives him a disapproving look. He then also scoots over on the couch for her. You know, just generally, they both seem very sweet and there's a lot of kind of friendly flirtation going on. But it's one of those things where I wonder how different the song would be interpreted if it was more of like a You situation. You being the Netflix original series about the guy who is essentially stalking someone and does all these things that come across as very nice, but really have like an ulterior motive. But you know, just something to consider. Remember, just because this series is called This Song Sucks doesn't mean I actually hate this song. Crush brought me a lot of comfort in my early teens when I was first kind of figuring out the whole relationship business, starting to long for more than just friendships with certain people. Crush captures those feelings perfectly, but it's also not realistic in plenty of other ways that I have already discussed. This is certainly an older song, being like 12 years at this point. Still, it brings quite a few people comfort. Just remember that this song isn't all there is to know about first loves and emerging feelings. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe, everyone.